I'm Brandy, and this is Making It My Own. Halloween! The first project is a witch pumpkin. Now you know every year we end up with a bunch of these little extra little goodies that the kids get from school or that, people want to trash. Go ahead and grab those things. I have 4 of them. I have a little witchy headband. Too cute. These are bendy, see? That's going to help us. They're not metal, they're kind of a plastic. I have a dark gray and I also have a silver color here. Until I decide what I want. I have spray painted it black, and now I'm going to sit it, this is like a flat black. I'm going to set it on the top of a candle because, that way it's closer to my face, and I'm also going to put my glasses on. And I am going to begin to paint on the inside of the eyes. Now, you could do gray here if you wanted. I'm just doing silver. It doesn't have to be completely opaque. The idea is to get that silver in there before we go on to the next step with the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. So I'm just using a little angled brush here because for me it just kind of helps get into those angular areas. Get into the corners and all that. And don't worry if you don't stay in the lines perfectly. You can always just take your finger and wipe it off before it dries. That is something that is very simple. If you don't mind getting your hands dirty. If you have gloves on or whatever, just go ahead and grab a baby wipe if you don't want to get your hands dirty and get that off of there. But you don't want to rub too hard. You don't want to take any paint back off. So this is just an acrylic paint. Simple. Once it's dried, and you can see there's some streaking in there, but I'm not bothered by that. It's completely dry now. And he's ready for our next step. I'm going to add some Mod Podge, and this, I believe, is the glossy Mod Podge. I'm going to add it right in that little nose space, and we're going to take all of it from there to use in the other features of his face. So I'll use a little bit on the nose, and then I'll take a little bit over to each eye and the mouth. This is more than enough Mod Podge. We just want to have enough on here that we can get a nice layer of glitter in the eyes. Yes, I said it, glitter. That's right. Told y'all before, may not be a big fan of glitter on everything all year long, but times like these call for glitter. Mystical, magical, Halloweeny, Half-a-weeny, Summerween, Junoween, whatever you want to call it. And by the way, if you're looking for Junoween, if you search for that, you can find other crafters who are also doing Halloween. So go and check those out and support those people as well. I know they would appreciate it. So I'm just kind of patting it in there. I want to make it sort of an even layer though, because I don't want it to be thicker in one spot than in another spot. This is nail glitter. It is extremely fine, powdery glitter. It is absolutely gorgeous. I ordered it from TEMU, but you can get it any place that you get nail supplies, really. Don't be concerned about the fallout there because you can take a stiff brush and just flick away that stuff and it'll be nice and clean. But keep in mind, wherever you overflow your Mod Podge, you're going to have glitter that won't come off. So just keep that in mind. I'm not using a soft brush because it doesn't really do anything, but the stiff brush will kind of flick it away like a broom does and give you a nice black background and a, some delineation between the features and the rest of the pumpkin. Wow, pulling out the big words today. Okay. And then you're going to let it dry. I would not recommend using a heat tool for drying on plastic because it may melt if you get too close. So just use a little fan or something, or just let it dry in time. Then we're going to coat it with some Mod Podge or some type of a sealer so the glitter doesn't come out and so that the paint stays lovely. I like to use a matte when I'm doing matte projects so everything has the same finish. Now, I wanted to be silly and give this little witch some hair, and I have some of this crazy ribbon. I used it last year on a cat project I did. It is semi-stretchy and it kind of curls up on the ends, but it is furry and it's on a ribbon. So we're going to use it. I'm going to add some hot glue and I'm going to pull it after I put it down, pull it slightly toward the face. Not all the way, but slightly, so we can still get the headband back in there. Look at her hair. So pretty. Now, since we know we can kind of compress this, we're going to take advantage of that. And instead of cutting anything off, we'll be able to use this hat again if we wanted to. Just going to press it in there and it's going to stay. Now, if you don't have the same size little pumpkins as I have, you know, scale everything. So if you don't have these little pumpkins and you're using bigger pumpkins, just use another little witch hat, maybe from a costume piece, and put that on top. Decorate it up, put some bats, some glitter, stars, and make it pretty. Now, she was very simple, right? Yeah, I think this is a simple little witch, and I think she's cute, and you can put her on a pedestal, on a tray. You can hot glue her onto a candle stand if you prefer it to do it that way. Just really, really cute, and she would be adorable in another, like if you had a display of pumpkins. I'm going to drop her here. Yeah, she would be great. Okay, the next one is the bumpkin pumpkin. I know y'all know I'm country. I'm from the South. We're going to make a bumpkin pumpkin. We're going to give 2 coats of paint on this one, and we're going to use chalk paint this time. Same little pumpkin as before. I'm going to use my pumpkin chalk paint to go over the surface. You can sand first if you want to, but if you make sure that your coat's dry in between thoroughly, you won't have a problem with the paint lifting off, but it has got to be completely dry. And you know, wet chalk paint looks different when it's dry. The color changes a little bit, so just be patient with it, and you'll get the coverage that you need. I did use 2 coats. If you need more than 2 coats, use more than 2 coats. If all you have is acrylic paint, spray underneath with some type of a sealer or maybe a white paint, and then paint on top of it, and that'll help it cling to the plastic better. All over him. I'm even getting on the mouth and all that kind of stuff. I'm not concerned about that because we're going to do something a little different with his features. Alright, so once it's dry with those layers of paint on it, this is what it's going to look like. I decided I want to add a little bit more, and I'm just going to use a little stippling action with a foam brush to go over the top of it. So this is actually, I guess you could call it the 3rd coat, but I don't do a solid coat. I just kind of stipple it all over to give it a little additional texture. But you could definitely skip this if you didn't want to do it. But you can see that you'll still be able to see right through that paint if you don't put enough on, or if you don't continue putting your coats on. It's just however it comes out when you're doing it. And of course, if you use a foam pumpkin instead of plastic, results will be different. You know, it's going to be different depending on what you're painting on. Okay, just keep on stippling. Let it dry thoroughly. Then I'm going to go over here and cut the eyes out. I decided to use my lighter. This video is not for children, so yeah. And if anybody is watching this, you need to be careful. You need to get these out however you can get them out. If you can cut this plastic with one of those heated foam knife things, then use that. If you can use your glue gun to go in there and heat it up and then peel it away or go around the edges, then do it that way. This is not going to be perfect. I cracked between the eye and the nose there. Oh! Yes, I cracked it because I was too strong. Yep. I was stronger than I realized. I pushed too hard and it cracked. But I'm going to fix it with a little bit of E6000 on the inside and then add a little more paint, and then it will look almost completely invisible. Once it is cut out, this is how it's going to look. I'm going to take some antiquing wax and baby wipes, and I'm going to use one of these little wood brown ornaments with a hole. That's important. A mini wreath, and then I'm going to use a string of lights. Now these I had on hand. Here's some wood, random wood pieces because I ran out of my stacking tower blocks, so I'm going to use some of this. I'm going to put a little bit of this wax onto a baby wipe, which is wet, and I'm going to use this to stain these wood pieces. You don't have to use a brush and make it super dark. This is really easy to do it this way, and it's going to give it kind of a wash rather than a solid coat, and it will be thin enough that I can put hot glue on here and it will still manage to stick together. You might want to use something like Gorilla Glue though, or you could paint this with paint if you wanted. But I am going for a country look here, so I'm going to make sure that you know, it looks country, and by using pieces of wood, that's going to give me the look I'm going for. So I'm going to make a little box for the bottom. This is going to be sort of a stand for it to sit on, but it's going to be a disguise for our light tray. You can skip this part if you're just going to use a candlelight in yours. You don't even have to use this part. But I think it really added some character to it, and it just looks cute when it comes together in the end. But I'll show you that at the very end. So you know how to make just a box here. You can see what I'm doing. I'm just a little bit out of range, but you get the idea. And I'm just going to make a square, or rectangle actually, out of these pieces. And I already know that it's the right size for the battery box for the lights. You could also use wood glue or E6000 here, or you could use Gorilla Glue, however you want to do it to put your pieces together. Okay, it does not have to be completely square. That's not going to be an issue. Just get it as close as you can. We're not stressing this stuff, are we? No, it's supposed to be fun. We're not going to stress it. So once that is done, grab some burlap. I have had this burlap for a while. I got it at Walmart on a very deep clearance. So I am going to go ahead and use it for this project because this just reminds me of a scarecrow, and that's kind of what this little pumpkin is going to be, like a little scarecrow almost. I'm going to cut out a square that is going to fit, or pardon me, a rectangle that is going to fit, and I'm going to add hot glue on one side all the way around to hold that in place. Now this is going to be the bottom. I want the pretty side up, but it really won't matter because nobody's going to see it, but I know it's there. Okay, so it's nice and flat. It's all pulled nice and taut so that it looks neat. And then I'm going to take my scissors and just cut off any of the excess after it is all glued down. Just want it to be nice and neat because you will see the outside of the box. You just won't see the inside. Okay, so now it's nice and finished. We can put that battery pack in there, and I want it to go kind of toward the back corner. So if I turn it this way, this is going to be the back where I've got the wire. I'm going to just kind of make a mark of where I want it. Just a mental note right there where that crack is, so that I'll remember to put Velcro on those pieces rather than gluing them straight down. Another piece on the top. This time you want that pretty side up. And I'm going to go over the bottom completely, the side that is away from the wire completely, the one that's by the wire partially down, and then the top and the corner will be open. We're going to use Velcro closures for these. I'm going to add, you can get yours at Dollar Tree. It doesn't really matter where you get it from. If you don't have the dots, then you can use certainly the strips. Whichever way works best for you, what you have on hand, right? We're talking about saving money on this channel and making it our own. So just however you can make it your own, do it that way. It is overhanging a little bit, and I'm just going to trim that off. Same process here. We're going to trim off all of that excess. Don't cut the wire though. And y'all, I've said this in other videos and it is still relevant. Please check your lights before you start doing your project, putting it together, because if it doesn't work and you've went through the frustration of all this, then you're going to have to leave and go somewhere and buy lights if yours don't work. So go ahead and fix it where they work. Now you can see that it is disguised in the box underneath, and we put our pumpkin on top. We're going to take our wire from the lights, thread it through this little wood slice. I think I called it a wood round before, but you know, wood slice, you get it. And then I'm going to thread it all the way through there, and it will actually hold the chunkier part of the wire too. The thicker part works well. I'm just, right now it looks kind of crazy because I'm winding it around my hand so I can put it inside the pumpkin. You don't have to wind it. You could just poke it down in there if you want to. And then this will make a great little topper. It's going to fit nicely right across the top where it's open. Do not glue your wire. You want to be able to remove that at some point if you need to. Just on the wood and on the pumpkin, and that is plenty to keep everything in place. Make sure that you have that wire to the back of the pumpkin because you don't want to be seeing that on the top. Okay? See, there my lights work, y'all. Look, my lights work. It slips right back in that little box. I can Velcro it down and put him right back on there. And I love it. Now it needs a hat, so let's work on that part. I'm going to take this little miniature wreath. I have had these for many, many years. I am not entirely sure where they came from, but I do know you can get them at places like Hobby Lobby and Michael's and maybe Dollar Tree. I'm not entirely sure. Okay, so that's going to be the bottom part, or the little cuff part almost, of the hat. We're going to cut another piece of the burlap, and I'm going to fray both ends of the long sides. This is a rectangle here, so I'm going to make sure both sides are frayed. We want this to almost look like straw from a scarecrow. You know, we want it to look rustic and rough. And I know I'm kind of out of camera's angle, but you know how to do this. You pull one string at a time and you just fray it out, and it looks so nice. Now I've looped it on itself to see that I have enough in like the diameter to fit just inside of that wreath. Then I did a little hot glue on the bottom just where it overlapped, because we want to make this a hat. We have to have an opening in the bottom. And then the top section right above the middle, I'm going to tie it off really tightly with some jute twine, because we're going to make almost a little poof on top, but not exactly a little poof on top. You'll see. So I'm going to tie it in a double knot, and then I'm going to make a little bow, which definitely does not have to be a bow. You can just leave it into a knot and cut the tails off. This is your preference, right? You're making it your own. You can cut your tails as short as you want them, trim everything up. I'm just going to take my thumbs and go on the inside and pull the hat out, okay? You can see how I pulled it out. I'm just trimming a little bit because the print wasn't equal all the way around, so that was bugging me. And then I know it's going to fit perfectly down inside of here. Yay, love it when that happens. All right, and then on the top, I'm going to go ahead, now that I know that's the top, fray it out some more, fluff it out a little bit, and then cut that weird angle off. Okay, so now I'm going to flip it up like I'm flipping the cuff of a hat, or you're flipping up your pants. You know, you're rolling your pants. You're just going to do one flip upward. And since we have that extra little piece of a layer in there, you can hot glue that so that it stays together. It just takes a dot of glue. You'll see here, just a little dot, and that's going to hold those two little layers together. And then I will make sure I have it stood up straight, add some hot glue, and glue that hat down. How adorable is he? Oh my goodness, he's so cute. He's dancing, he's so happy. Ooh, full of life. Okay, now we're going to antique it up. So I've got my wax. I am going into the wax, and I'm going to offload as much as I can on my piece of paper, and I'm going to start putting wax on. I went a little heavy-handed with this first streak, y'all. Whoops. But that's okay. It blends out with no problem at all. Then I was like, well, I don't have enough now. Then I just decided to go with it. Let's look like it's been rolled around in the garden a little bit. Maybe it's been out in the patch, and it's gotten kicked around a little bit by the mules and the critters and the, you know, animals who live out there with it. And I'm going to just continue to do this and add where I want to add, bulk up where I want to bulk up. If you get too much in one spot, you can be careful and get a wipe and try to get it off a little bit. But this kind of stuff really doesn't concern me too much. The holes also don't concern me in the side. You don't really notice that anyway. All right, so you want to be sure you let it dry, and then you're going to seal it. That is cute, y'all. How easy was that? The next project is a candy corn pumpkin. All right, some flat white paint and another one of those pumpkins, y'all. We're going to use a yellow, orange, and white. This is a bright yellow, a parchment creamy looking white, and then I think it's just a regular orange there. Then you're going to use a variety of paint brushes. First, we're going to spray paint this and let it dry completely. One coat is all we need. That's going to help our paint, our acrylic paint, bond to that plastic. So I'm going to start off by counting. I actually counted all the way around to make sure that I would evenly be able to put the orange, white, and yellow all the way around. And it worked, and I'm happy about it. So I'm carefully, on the first layer that I put down with the acrylics, I'm just trying to get my spacing right, and I'm just trying to make sure that I don't overlap too bad in the lines that divide the pumpkin. So all those little indentions in the pumpkins. I don't think anybody has a formal name for those little bumps in the pumpkin, or the little lines in the pumpkins, the divots, the deviations, the spaces, the puffs, I don't know what they are. Protuberances? I don't know. But that's what I'm trying to do. That's what I'll do with this one. And I decided to leave his nose completely out of it and cover up half of his mouth. I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do with his eyes at this point. So we're just going to work on the paint first. These flat brushes to me work really well when you are trying to stay in lines like this. Now, like I said, it's going to be kind of clear. You're going to go back over it and do a second coat. Do a second coat with all of them. For the orange, it was not a matte color. It was a satin finish. And it is just looking a little too mottled to me. So I'm just going to take a little bitty pouncer and I'm going to just kind of stipple it on the orange sections to give it a little, maybe illusion of flatness. But after it's sealed, though, you're not going to notice the difference. Really easy to do. It just gives it a nice finish. Okay, so this is how it looks so far. Of course, on this project, I add and add and add and add, because at this point, I'm just going nuts. So you can stop at any point that you would like to stop. I'm going to grab the Mod Podge, same as we did on the other ones. I'm going to go in those eyes, the nose, and the mouth with the Mod Podge, and I will also be using more of some beautiful nail paint. And I actually got a 4-pack of nail paint from, I thought I got it from TEMU because I was looking at it through TEMU, but I actually got it from some overstock Amazon stuff that I got it dirt cheap. So I can't give you a name for it, but just look for nail glitter or nail products and you should be able to find the stuff. What makes it different to me, in my opinion, is that they're so much finer than the other glitters. Not necessarily all of them. This one's a little bit on the chunky side, but I love it because it has silver and orange and yellow. It's just really pretty. So now I'm just using a really thin stick here, craft stick, to just press this down into the glue. I wanted this to be a little bit thicker than I did on the other one because it's so chunky and I didn't want any open spots left. So I'm just using that to kind of press it into there. Same process here to clean it up. You're just going to grab a stiffer brush and just sweep away all of those little pieces because, as I said before, if you don't do that and you seal it, you're going to seal in all the random pieces that you probably did not intend to be outside of the facial feature area. Pumpkin feature area? You know what I mean. Okay, so that's what it's going to look like, and we're going to do the mouth too. So here is the mouth. And I'm just patting it down. I'm not rubbing it because I don't want to smear it, but I'm just patting it and pressing it down into the surface. Gonna tap that off into that paper and then clean that up. Very cute. Ooh, I really like that. Okay, y'all, save that glitter. Use a piece of paper underneath it, fold it in half, make you a little ditch in there, tap that glitter straight back into that bottle, and you have saved yourself another project's worth of glitter. How about that? Okay, so now everything is dry and it is sealed. We are going to work on this beautiful little arrangement. So you're going to take just a scrap of foam that you have. I got a little scrap out of a package that I received. I've got some thrifted ribbon with candy corn. Love the black. We're going to add some black to this. Here's the little details. This is a candy corn pick from last year from Dollar Tree. I have some glittery eucalyptus and some leaves, and they're all black. I'm going to see how tall I want this to be because I don't want it to tip over or be overwhelming. So I'm going to trim it down with my cutters. You can do the same thing, cut it with whatever you have to cut it with. But they are wire, so you probably don't want to use your good scissors on this. All right, so just right in the top, And then I'm going to take those leaves and go underneath it. This is going to go around the top. I have bent these at a 90-degree angle. You can see that what I did there. And I'm going to press it down all the way until the leaves are resting on the top of the jack-o'-lantern. Press it in there, and you're just going to continue all the way around. These are scraps that I had from another project last year. This is just what I do, y'all. I will take things apart and use them again on other things, and that is the best way to save money from year to year, because styles change and your style may change. Maybe you're not into what you had last year, or maybe you're just the person who likes to have something different every year to celebrate Halloween, or if you live that spooky life and you have, you know, spooky decor in your house all the time. Change it up. Change it up. Okay, then the ones that I'm going to put in the second layer, they're just going to be probably at a 45-degree angle. So they're a little bit higher than the ones that are flat. It's just going to build it up toward the candy corn and just make it look a little more full. You can spray paint. If you've got spray paint for the other projects and you don't have black leaves or greenery, take that greenery outside and make it blackery. Just spray paint it. Heck, for that matter, you could do fluorescent green, you could do orange, you could do whatever color you wanted to make your leaves. But I wanted the black in here because it looks so good with that ribbon. Now, all of y'all don't like bows, so you can leave the bow off and you can just do this, but I will also be showing you how to do a bow, of course. She needs it. She reminds me of Chiquita Banana. You know, she's got this stuff on her head, so we're gonna give her some earrings. I've got this little orange beaded necklace. You can get this kind of stuff probably at Dollar Tree. I know that I got these at Dirt Cheap. It was a pack of like party favors for Halloween. And since they always sell everything off season at those overstock type stores, I can find this all year long pretty much. So I'm going to use a little hot glue. We're going to give her earrings. Yes, the pumpkin has earrings. And I'm just I cut it into sections of 3, so it's not too long. And how adorable is she? Look at her. Oh yes, she is feeling herself. Fancy, fancy. Look at that. All right, so now the little bow. This is like a taffeta type ribbon. I'm measuring here to see that I don't have a bow that's going to overwhelm the entire arrangement. And I like this size. This is about 4 inches. So I am going to just kind of hold that tail, and I'm going to flip it over on itself where there are 2 loops on either side. And then we will cut it off and start making our little bow. It's been a while since I've done this type of bow. We're going to take a little bit of jute, and I'm using orange just because, you know, it matches. So we're going to use it. I'm going to notch the corners here. Some people call this a notched bow. Olivia calls this the Olivia bow. There are a variety of things that you can call it. Not trying to steal it from anybody because I did not invent this type of a bow. I'm just going to show you how to do it. Okay? So the little slits will allow that jute to go right in there. It'll get right in there, and then you can tie your little knots. What makes this convenient is that this is like a, I guess it is taffeta, but there's no wire in it, and it essentially would be more difficult to hold its form because it's so stiff it would want to snap back into its original place. But by cutting those slits, once you pull those loops out, it's almost like a puzzle. When you twist it, it'll kind of lock those little loops in their individual places, and it makes it perfect for this type of fabric. So don't pass this up. If you see this in the thrift store, don't pass it up because you can still use it. And look how cute. The print on this is just adorable to me. So now we have the two loops on each side, and I'm just going to tie it right onto the wire underneath the tallest center candy corn piece. You can do, you know, a couple of knots to make sure nothing comes loose. And then, and this is how it's going to look. I think she's so cute. That is cute. And that's not me bragging, y'all. It's cute. It's so cute. Okay, so now we're going to make the tails for those bows. And since there are 4 loops, I want just go ahead and make 4 tails so that it looks like we actually have a couple of bows stuck there together, and it will thicken it up. So y'all have seen me do this before. You're just going to fold that sort of into a V shape, and in between each little layer, just a tiny bit of glue smeared in there will keep it in that shape. We're going to add a little glue to the underneath side of the bow as well as the top, and tuck it up underneath the loops of the bow. Spin it around, cut off your excess that we don't need anymore because we didn't have to tie it, and that's how her bow is going to look. What a beautiful headdress. She should be in a parade. Love it. She's cute. I want to give a little more detail to that face. So I'm going to take a fine acrylic marker and I'm going to put some dots. I always hesitate before I start doing this because I'm like, oh, do I do it? Do I not do it? Because then there's a lot of cleanup required to cover up black if you don't like it once you get it on there. But sometimes you just got to go with the flow. And there are polka dots in that ribbon. So these polka dots on her face just fit so well. So I'm just going to put like 3 dots under each eye. 3, it looks like I did 4. So 3 or 4 dots under each eye, and then all the way across the top, underneath the nose. And then I'm going to go around the mouth, a couple of dots over the top of the nose, around the teeth. And I think that just looks very cute. That now looks to me like, yeah, that's definitely festival. That's a festival costume. She's ready. She's ready for a Halloween parade somewhere. She's going to Salem, y'all. She is going to Salem. So cute. Yeah, I think she's my favorite one, but I would love to know what you think, which one that you like. But we got more. So here is the fed up pumpkin, the overwhelmed pumpkin, the I've had enough, it's summertime, get these kids out of my house pumpkin. So we're going to use a slate color. It's a satin, and we're going to color that last pumpkin with that slate. What a beautiful color. Then we're going to take 2 shades of purple. So it's Concord Grape and Amethyst. Amethyst is metallic. I'm going to use a brush, and I have some skeleton little hands here. Also going to be using some felt and some more of that little fur ribbon. I'm going to go over that paint with some of that Concord Grape. Look how pretty this purple is. Woo! That is Halloweeny purple if I've ever seen it. And yes, it is streaky, but we do not care. Let it dry. This will just screw out. There are little screws in the top, and we're just going to screw that out. I'm going to save that hardware for possibly another project, or if I want to make myself some earrings. You see how they're iridescent? Can you see how they kind of change colors? There's purplish, bluish. Love them, and they look so good with this paint. So here is our coat of purple on here. You can do 2 coats, but it's really not necessary. We're going to layer it up with some amethyst. Now, the amethyst I do 2 coats of. I'm going to do the same process here. If you get a little bit in the eyes and the mouth, I'm going to show you how to fix that shortly. Not going to be a problem, so don't stress. Go all the way around this pumpkin. Leave his features that nice flat color. You can see the difference with that metallic paint. Oh, I can't wait. And I ordered some color change also for Halloween, and I cannot wait to get that paint, y'all. Oh, the possibilities for my fairies and stuff are just endless. So I've got some wrought iron. You can go over the eyes. They match really close to that slate color. So if you get a mistake, just go back over it with that, and it'll cover it up perfectly. I'm going to take a triangle cut here. This is going to be 15 by 18 looking sort of triangle. I'm going to flip it over about 1 inch to give it a nice finished edge. I'm going to, you know how you always have them spider webs you can only use in one season because they look so ratty? That's what I'm doing here. I'm going to take a wad of the spider webs, put it on the inside, so it has a slight dome at the top. I don't want him to be a flathead. I want it to have a little bit of curve up there. So then I'm going to put it over its top like it's got a little headdress on or a handkerchief on its head. But I'm not going to tie it. I'm going to leave it long on the sides. This is going to represent the crazy hair that we have in the summertime when we're watching kids and such. I'm going to take a little piece to use for like little bangs or a little fur piece, whichever way you want to look at it. I'm going to add some hot glue right across where just about as wide as the eyes are. And I'm going to add that little piece there. It's going to seamlessly fit onto that black. Give it a little texture. Look at that. Cute. Okay, now I'm going to set her up here so that I can put these hands on where I want to put them on. Now when you hold your hands up to your head, your thumb is toward the back of your head. So make sure that you position these correctly. I'm going to add some hot glue in the little, there's like a little trough in the hands here, or the little wrist type area, or the center of where the hand would be. I'm going to let it slightly cool. I'm going to pull it up there and slightly let it cool before I put it on this, because I won't have to hold it there forever if I do it that way. And it will still stick down on there. And I won't burn my hands, and there will be no gushing of glue or stringing of glue anywhere when you do it this way. So I'm going to try to get them symmetrical on both sides of the head, like she is holding her head. Look at that. She's exasperated. She's just, she has screamed till she's blue or purple in the face, y'all. She has. She's smiling though, but she's smiling through tears. Frustration. She is fed up. Oh my goodness. But that is her. Yes. Here are those 4 beautiful personalized little pumpkins. These beautiful pizzazz pumpkins. They all have a different look, and they all came from one idea of a pumpkin. I would love it if you would subscribe to my channel so that you can see all these budget-friendly, unique ideas that we do here on this channel. I'm always trying to bring you something that you probably haven't seen before, and I think I might have succeeded on these little pumpkins. What do you think? If you could do one of these pumpkins, which ones will it be? We're going to start off with a little bit of ribbon. Whatever type you have is good. Doesn't have to be wired. We're going to use a glue stick or some adhesive spray. I have a Mod Podge little scraper and a utensil to cut. A block that was thrifted, believe it or not. And I'm just giving you a measurement here so you can get an idea. And this came off the back of a blanket I got at Walmart. It was on the packaging and I liked it, so I cut it out. Now I'm just going to clean up a little bit on the back. There was some sticker residue, so I wanted to get that off. Wipe it away and get all that off of there. Now it's nice and clean. And then you can just decide which side you want to go down. You can have your sign so that it will be reversible, or you can cover up the back side, whichever one you like. I'm going to trace it out on that cardboard paper there and just cut it out. I've decided to use my spray adhesive for this, so you need to cover your surface before you put it on. I've already done that. And then I'm just going to place down the paper. Once you put it on, it is there. You're not going to be able to move it. So if you're not sure of yourself, use a glue stick because you have a lot more time there to move things around. I'm just making sure everything is flat and that it is getting a good, nice adhesion there. And then I'm going to take my sander and go around the edges and just get off whatever is left. I've decided that I like the black and white ribbon as a trim to go around the block. Now, this ribbon is not quite wide enough, but we're going to fix that. You could always paint your edges first if you would like. But if you didn't do that, then I'm going to show you a way that you can do it. No problem. We're just going to go around with that pretty ribbon till we get back to the end and glue it down. Now if you have paint pens or furniture markers or a fine paintbrush and you feel comfortable with paint, you can certainly use that. But I'm taking my black furniture repair marker and just going to go around all of the edges on each side of the ribbon, on all of the sides, so that I have a nice finished look. Now this is a part of a tag that I got 100 years ago, both of the stickers as well, from when I was back in my scrapbooking days. I cannot tell you where I got those from, but you can pretty much find these types of tags anywhere. You can get things that are similar at Dollar Tree. And you can use any type of dimensional or flat sticker that you like. You could even hot glue some type of an embellishment if you would like. Just use your imagination here. I happen to like this little cat, so I'm going to try to center him there and then press him down. You can always use a little hot glue if you want to make sure nothing falls apart, but this is staying here for me pretty nicely. This came from Dollar Tree. It is white. It looks very cute as it's on. It would look nice in a baby's nursery, I think, but a little bit of black paint can take this from cute to spooky, but spooky in a good way. So I'm going to take my rubbing alcohol. As you should with everything you get, clean it really well. Especially if you're going to use paint or any type of adhesive on it, it's important that you get every surface inside and out so that you don't have any oils from your hands or any dirt or anything like that that would keep your adhesives and your paints from sticking. So once that's done and it's dry, we're going to take it outside and spray paint it. I used one good coat and let it dry. And now I'm going to use this. Now I found this at Dollar Tree. It is some type of a sticky strip. I lost my packaging, so I don't have it to show you. Then you're going to need some type of a mesh. You can use mesh ribbon. You can use anything that you have. And I do have some of this mesh already. I'm going to use this. Can't recall where I got it from. Probably Goodwill. I'm going to cut these in strips. Now they're double-sided sticky. And they work pretty good. I've used them to organize around my desk, and I'm very happy with them. It's kind of a gel-like squishy substance. I can't really tell you what that is. I'm going to go around all underneath the lip on the inside and around the bottom, not overlapping where the openings are for the little stars and moons, so that I have something to attach my fabric to. You know, you can't use hot glue on this type of thing, so I found that this is a perfect solution. Now if you have little command stickies or double-sided tape would probably work for this. You know, just kind of try, use your imagination and use what you already have. And then I've got some paper shreds there stuck to my paint, but it does come off. And then I just press that mesh down in there so that it covers up all the spaces. I'm going to take my little light, tea light from Dollar Tree in a 2-pack, and kind of give you an idea of what it's going to look like when it's lit up. Now it's going to how it's going to look. You can barely see the mesh, but it does give it a dimmer look, and I like that. If you want to put something on the top, you can use it as a little pumpkin, artificial pumpkin sitter, and I just have this pumpkin bell. I'm going to take some of this shred here. This is black. Can't recall where I got it, but you can get this kind of stuff at Dollar Tree all the time. And I'm just going to set the little bell right in top, trim around there, and then you'll see the end result at the end of the video for this one. It's kind of hard to show it, but I think he looks really cute there. Love using calendar art for signs. You're going to need some stickers, whatever type you like, whatever matches whatever picture you have. I want mine to have dimensions, so I'm going to use the bats. I've got some of this stretchy lace trim that came from a thrift store. Of course, I have my calendar, and it is the October 2022 farmhouse calendar artwork. I'm going to use a square piece that I have that came, I think it came from Target originally. And I had already spray painted it black. It did have metal on the front, but I painted it for another project and didn't use it. And it works perfectly here. Perfect frame. So I'm going to take my glue stick. You can use whatever you would like. I don't recommend the adhesive spray at this point because it's going to give you a permanent hold. And if you don't get it centered, it's going to be crooked from here on out. So I'm going to use this and go around the edges too. I tried to not make you see all of that. And when it dries, it's clear, so you don't have to worry about if you go past where your calendar is going to lay down. I'm just going to press it down gently with my hands. I have my little roller that came from Plaid. I'm an ambassador for Plaid now, so I got lots of goodies, and they've sent me some really nice stuff to work with that I'm enjoying. Just going to roll that out, make it nice and clean and no bubbles. What about that? Very nice. Okay, so now I want to trim this out. There's little holes at the top. You know, a calendar, you have to have a place to hang it. So since there's a hole up there, I want to cover it, and I think this lace would look really cute. If you've seen my other Halloween videos, you know that I've done a lot of, well, several little witchy type projects this year, and I'm loving that. I'm loving the little frilliness and the, you know, that type of thing, adding that in with my projects. Last year was a little more farmhouse. It didn't have a lot of extra stuff on it, but this year I've just decided to just go ahead and make some pretty stuff, or what I would see as pretty. More feminine, maybe, I guess is the better word for it. But you do whatever you like. You can use a plain ribbon. You don't have to use ribbon at all. Whatever you want to do here is absolutely fine. So we do the top and the bottom. And then I've got some of these little dimensional stickers. Now you can get the little wood ones at Dollar Tree. I'm going to press those down. And the one on the top I do end up moving, but I put it back on later and you'll see that. These are some berry picks from Dollar Tree. It's a very nice silver and black, and I think they come in some other colors as well. But I'm going to do them just like this. This is so simple. There's no arranging really to this. I'm going to take a zip tie and then go right over the center, trim it down. And then I want to make a bow, and I thought, you know what, let's go on with the mesh here. Let's go with that theme and go ahead and try to make a mesh bow. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to do 2 loops on each side. I'm just holding it in the middle so that if you count the ends there beyond my thumbs, there's 2 on the left and 2 on the right. I'm going to cut this off because we're not worried about tails right now. Pinch it up into the center. I'm going to use a zip tie to hold this down, and this is going to look a little bit like a layered bow because we're going to have 4 little ears, 2 on each side. Really easy. I did get this mesh at the thrift store, but I'm sure you can find it at any crafting store. You might even can get it at Walmart. I don't know. Haven't looked. It's been a long time since I've been Walmart shopping, since I'm able to just do it online and I go pick your groceries up. It makes it so much easier. Do y'all do that? Have y'all ever tried it? I highly recommend it. You'll spend less money, just in my opinion, because if I'm in the store, I always grab that extra stuff that I really don't need, just because I have to have it, right? I have to have it. Now I'm going to use another piece of this mesh ribbon to just tie this bow onto the picks. I'm just trimming down and deciding how I want these little tails to lay. Do I want one on the top and one on the bottom? Do I want them sticking up on top like bat wings, or do I want them on the bottom? I think I want them on the bottom. So we're going to use some hot glue, put it on top of that trim. And I don't go overboard with glue, but on things like this, they're a little bit bulky. You kind of need that glue to make sure that it doesn't fall off. If you're going to put it outside, you want to use Gorilla Glue. Okay, so there's the bat. I put him back on. And then you can trim up the tails. You can move the tails around. You know, you want it to look high end, so you want it to be nice, everything in its place. And this is how it's going to look. Can you believe that was made from just a piece of artwork out of a calendar? All right, I have a variety of ribbons here. Some were given to me by my neighbor. One came from Dollar Tree. I have a 5-inch embroidery hoop. All of my hoops have come from the thrift store. I've got some of these little pumpkins that are plaid, and they came from Dollar Tree. I found them very late in the game. Then a little scrap of fabric here. You're going to take apart your hoop just like this. Flip your fabric over. The pretty side goes down. Just trying to make sure I don't have any wrinkles there. I'm going to press that inner ring down, and it's going to give us this really pretty polka dot front. I'm going to take that little screw there and tighten it all up, and then turn your scissors sideways and trim that off. That'll give you a nice clean cut, and you won't be able to see it at all from the front. Again, with a furniture marker, I'm going to go around my edges just like this. This one's really easy and quick to do because it's black on the background, so you don't have to be careful about smearing it or getting it on anything that, you know, might make a mess out of your picture. So there you go. You can go around the edges if you would like with that black marker, if you want to. And I'm just going to take my little pumpkin and put it down and decide if I want an extra embellishment in the middle. You can use stickers or cutouts, whatever you would like. And then with a little hot glue, I'm going to place it toward the bottom. I've decided not to embellish my pumpkin because I want to put a little bow on the top, and I don't want it to be just too crazy for a small piece. So I'm going to take some pieces and I'm going to add a little bit of jute in. These are about 5 or 6 inches long. If I had to guess, I did not measure it. But I don't want to use anything that's bigger because, like I said, it'll be top heavy and it'll lean forward when you hang it up, or when you try to sit it up, it won't be very balanced. Go ahead and finish off your ends any way you would like. If you want to dovetail, you can do that. And then make your stack. Just crisscross back and forth, however you want to do it. You don't have to add the jute, or you can add more, or you could add some raffia, whatever you like there. Or you could use your own bow, whatever type you choose. I'm just going to get this tied in the middle, squeeze it tightly, and then I'm going to save my pieces of jute. I'm going to leave them long because we're going to use that to tie it onto that screw area. This is going to cover up that little closure tightening screw. You won't see it, and it'll help our bow stay on the top. Trim it down where it needs to be trimmed. Just look at it and see what needs to go where. You can move things around, and this is how it looks. Now for hanging purposes, you can go ahead and take a piece of string and tie it just like this, or any type of a way that you want to hang that up. You can also, instead of hanging it up, use it on your tiered tray, just like the little cat stand that we did, or the little cat project. It could go on a tiered tray as well. So some of this is going to be repetitive. I'm going to use a little sign that came off of a broken pick. I used it last year in a different project. This is some scrap fabric. This is my larger embroidery hoop, and I think it says 10 inches there. Is that 10 inch? We'll take it apart just like the other. We're going to do the same process. You're going to be a pro at this. You're going to lay it out. Now with stripes like this, you want your pattern to be straight up and down. So I just used my screw at the top to give me an idea of where my stripes would line up. Tightened it down, and now you can pull a little bit to make sure that there's no wrinkles left in there and that your lines are straight. Then you're going to do the same thing. Turn those scissors sideways, cut along that line. It's got a nice, pretty finished look there. We're going to put this sign down with some hot glue. Bam, bam, bam. All right, center it as best as you can, and then place it down. You could use a pumpkin or anything on here, any type of a cutout. You could even use like cardstock cutout if you wanted to, whatever you want to use. So I know I'm going to use that black pick. It was left from the other little pack. Now I'm going to take this raffia, and you've seen this on other projects I've done. I'm going to wrap this around my hand, and I'm doing this about, I don't know, what do you think? Does that look like about 10 times? Probably about 10 times. So I've made my loops with it, and I'm just holding on to it so it doesn't fall apart. I'm going to cut it and cut another piece to go in there. I'm going to go around the part that I was holding because that's where my loose ends are. And I'm going to tie it off. This stuff is pretty strong. I think I got this from Dollar Tree, but I'm not 100% sure. But it's good. Wherever I got it from is very good quality. It's very strong. Okay, so I'm just going to put it in my hands, kind of like you're making a tassel, and cut those off so they'll be nice and even. And then I know I want these to go together, so I'm going to take that extra long piece that I had, and I'm going to tie it around the same as we did in the other little project. You're just tying it around that screw. It helps disguise the screw, and it's just a good place for you to put things. You know, where instead of just using glue, it's extra strength by being tied on. So I'm going to slip the stem right through there where it's tied, and then just reinforce it with a little bit of glue there so that it doesn't flop around at all. And then you can kind of fluff it out if you would like. I'm going to take that same stretchy piece of trim, and I'm going to start going around my edge. I'm going to start underneath where the pick is so we don't have any gaps. And because this is stretchy, it very easily is manipulated to follow the curve on the edge. If you use a straight piece of ribbon, you're going to have to do some gathers. Look how cute! That is too cute. But a little spider should definitely live here. I tried the bat and I just wasn't feeling it, so I think the spider is going to be perfect. Right there in the top. What do you think? Very cute. You can hang this the same way with a little piece of tied jute if you would like. Or you can quite possibly the best, in my opinion, project I have done the entire Halloween series. We're going to start with this pumpkin from Dollar Tree. I'm going to use a little bit of pumpkin orange Waverly chalk paint that came from Plaid. Thank you very much, Plaid. Then I have a little bit of this antiquing wax that I already had. I'm going to put a few drops in here because I want to muddy up this orange paint and give it a more realistic looking dirty pumpkin look. So when I get it the color I like, just like this, I'm gonna start brushing it on there. It's just a more natural color, I think, than the one that was already on the pumpkin. And it's gonna match the fabric that we're using much better. So 2 coats of that and let it dry. And then I'm going to take the medium size embroidery hoop and this beautiful cat fabric. I'm going to use this little kitty. There's a bunch of seams on here. It is wrinkled, but you can see in just a moment how to get the wrinkles out. Just like we said before, pull a little bit, press down, pull. Then you're going to tighten that screw up. We're going to cut it out. Same process. This is your 3rd one. You are professional at this right now, right? Professional. So you're going to go all the way around it. And you see it's going to eventually live in the middle of the pumpkin. I'm going to go ahead and use a paint pen for this. I'm using this paint pen or paint marker to go around the edge of this because I have finally had to say goodbye to my black marker. I used all the ink out of my repair marker. Now go all the way around the edges, and you can either go around the edges with that, on the sides with that, or you can go use a little bit of paint. And I did use paint, but you won't see that on the camera. It's just a very dark, I think it's called pavement. Now I'm going to use a wet wipe. Use whatever brand, whatever kind you like. I mean, I think they all pretty much work the same way. I'm just using one I had. And you're going to put a little bit of wax on there, and we're going to make some curves. We're going to add dimension to this pumpkin because I don't want the cartoonish look that we had before. And you can see just by going over the curves, just by fanning it out on the ends and going around the edges, that pumpkin looks so much better. Oh yeah, I did paint that stem that brown also, I forgot. Okay, so to make a pick on the top, we're going to spray paint that little stem black. Here's my little finish centerpiece. While our pick is drying, we're going to embellish. A little bit of glue, we're going to put this down. You can glue this any way you want to. You can put it all the way around the rim, or you can just do a couple little dots like I did. Whatever you want to do. Then I have these. They were from way back in the scrapbook days. I'm surprised they still are sticky, but they are. You don't have to use stickers. If you don't have something like this, I chose this because it matches the print. You can see in the print over there behind the pumpkin that it has the kind of viney look. So that's why I chose it. But you can use a pen and freehand this. It's very easy to do this. Or, you know, you could possibly find these stickers. But I'm telling you, I've had them a long time. I love that you can add your own little pieces here to get your own little style. And that was really fun to me. And they're a little bit glittery, so that's nice. And I did go around with my paint pen and bump the edges intentionally to make it look a little more rustic, because there's like a little rustic look in the background of that cat fabric. So I did do that. Now after these are nice and dry, be sure they're dry, I'm just going to cut them off the big pick, and I'm going to crisscross them over in the middle. Just no particular way, just as long as there's equal amount each side. Another zip tie is how we're going to close it off. Going to seal these together nicely right in the center. And then clip off the excess. We don't need there. And I had some of this black left from our witch projects, and I want to use those definitely on here. We're going to just crisscross the stems on the bottom. I pulled this off of a piece that came from a different project we did. And then I'm going to zip tie that together. So I've got the beautiful colors that coordinate with what's going on in our cat fabric. Love that. And I'm just going to spread those out a little bit. And I'm going to take some of the darker leaves that fell off of something else I had. See, I keep everything. Which is a good thing and a bad thing. You know how it goes if you craft. Then you're just going to keep adding until you get it the way you want it to look in the middle. And then again with a big dollop of glue, I'm going to put this off to the side. I do not want to cover up my stem or anything else. We're going to let it dry completely. Then I'm going to take this little wooden spider. He's from a sticker from Dollar Tree. And I'm going to add him right on the leaves in the top. And then you can use a hanger on the back. You can do this or hang it any way that you like to hang it. You can put Jenga blocks on the back and make it a stander if you want to. It could be a standing sign. I hope y'all are getting lots of goodness out of this video because I worked my tail off for days. Days, I tell you. But I love it. I love crafting. Okay, so we have a little piece of scrap foam. We have some fabric. We have that sign, which I got just for the moon. I'm going to pull that right off the top, save the other parts for another project. I've chosen this little kitty cat for the next sign. And he is proudly standing on top of the pumpkin. I'm going to call it a she. I'm getting she vibes from this pumpkin. I'm going to use some Mod Podge, and this is just matte Mod Podge. I'm going to put this down on my scrap piece of foam board, and then we're going to put that fabric right on top. Just press it out with your hands, and then you can roll it, or you can use your tools. This is my little, Plaid sent the little tool to me, and I use it on some things. Then I'm going to go all over the top. I want this fabric to be stiff because we're going to cut this with a blade. And I want it to be nice and stiff. It's not really easy to get a precision cut, in my opinion, or in my experience, if you use scissors on foam board. Yeah. So we're going to take this tray that I've had forever and spray paint it with the matte paint. We're going to come over here to the cat, make it easier on ourselves by cutting off the excess and getting rid of it. Cut off the bigger sections and then start doing your fussy cuts. And this is why I'm using the little blade here. You can go around the ears. And I won't bore you with the entire thing, but you can see how this works. That fabric is stiff now. Now I'm just going to use my scissors and cut off the back part of the white that's showing through, just trimming it a little. And I'm going to take the same black acrylic marker and I'm going to go all around my edges because I don't want that white. I don't want that to show on my sign, so we're going to get rid of all of that. And I think even the black foam board has white on the inside, so yeah, that wouldn't have helped. So I'm going to put a little bit of paper on the back of that and glue it down, and then I'm going to fill in the hole with just a little bit of this lightweight spackling, also Dollar Tree. And I'm going to use my little silicone spatula to clean it up so it's flat in the front. After it is completely dry, we're going to start putting a little bit of paint to cover the hole up. I'm just going to use this yellow paint that I've already had and just kind of dot it over the top. And then I do go back with a white and clean up that orange edge so that it's nice and clean. Once the paint is dry, we can start assembling a little bit. So I am not sure where I got this little doily thing from. I have no idea, but I've had it forever in my Halloween stash because I use it underneath things, you know, to fancy it up. Just showing you the difference in the size of the Jenga blocks. The smaller one's from Dollar Tree and the larger one is from the thrift store, so I'm not sure where it came from originally. But I know it's an off-brand because it doesn't have the little Jenga imprint on it. So we're going to use that to give it some height and hold it up against off the tray. And we're going to do the same thing with the cat. All right, so we're going to put a little pocket on the bottom so that we have some way to hold some other goodies. So I'm going to use the rest of that scarf, and we have a project where I'm using a scarf. I had to cut it in half. So one scarf, two projects, you're going to see shortly. And I'm just going to tie it on the side and then tack it with some glue here and there so that it doesn't slide on here. Now this is not actually going to hold all of what we put down, but it's going to hold everything in. It's going to contain it, in other words. And I'm going to move that little side over to cover up the bottom. You don't have to do this step if you don't want to. This is, you know, it's inspiration. All my videos are for inspiration. If you like it and want to do it exactly, you just go right on ahead and at least give me a shout out for it. But if not, do your own thing, you know. A couple of those blocks on the bottom will help me support the stuff that I'm packing in here. This is just some more shred. I'm going to shove it down in there. Decide where I want the cat and the moon to be. I'm going to use a little bit of the, I think that's E6000, the jewelry formula, but I think all of it works the same. The tip's just a little more narrow. And hot glue on each of those pieces and then place them down where I think they look nice. So the cat and the pumpkin are sitting in that black stuff. I'm going to add one of these little Dollar Tree witches hats. I think this was in a 3 or 4 pack, and I've had it since last year. Went ahead and used it. I'm trying to use some things up. I have some of these yellow and orange flowers that are from the thrift store. You can get very similar things right at Dollar Tree, so no worries about that. But I love the colors. I think they look really good with the yellow moon and the orange in the pumpkin and in the scarf. So I'm just going to tuck those around in the bottom. And then this is how that little sign will look. You can hang that by putting the same type of tie on the back or any type of hanger that works. Alright, so we're going to use some Mod Podge for this project. This is I think this came from Dollar Tree. It doesn't have a sticker on it. And then this scarf that I had used in the other project, this is when I had actually cut it down and then used what I needed on the candle, and then the rest of it was used in the sign. So I got one ahead of the other, but you know, you get the point. You're going to cut off as much as you need to use here. Leave yourself a little excess. Get your alcohol and your paper towels. Clean this up really well. Then I'm going to take some of that Mod Podge and I'm going to put it in on one little section and decide how I want my base to lay, or my hurricane, or whatever you want to call this. And I'm trying to line the bottom of it up with the edge on the bottom with the trim from the fabric. So you can see down there on the bottom that I'm trying to line it up there. Now this is you're going to have to take some time and be patient and just give yourself some grace, because you're going to have to finagle this around to get those lines and stripes to stay straight, or you will have crooked waves all over the place. It took me some time, and I'll just be honest about that right now. I edited a lot of that out, so you didn't have to see that kind of a struggle, but you can still see what I'm doing here. I'm having to pull it and press it out, add a little bit of glue, pull it, press it out, add some glue, and when I get it exactly how I want it, I'll go ahead and put that top coat on there. It'll dry pretty hard. The excess is not going to have any glue on it. It'll be trimmed off later, so I'm just going to tuck it in on the top. I'm going to add a little extra glue here on the side where they overlap, and then continue to trim off the excess, because I don't want it to look bulky and, you know, just nasty in the back. I want it to look high end, like I always say. So here it is, dry, hard as a rock. I'm going to go around and trim the top, leaving just a little bit of a lip. You can use a glue stick, you can use double-sided tape, or you can just fold it under. Whatever type of glue you want to use, you can use. You can even use some more Mod Podge to get that top down if you would like. So now the fun part. I'm going to embellish it with some stickers. These did come from the Target dollar spot last year, but I got them at dirt cheap because it's an overstocked store, so they get last year's things this year, and this year's stuff we'll get next year. You know, you get the gist. I'm going to start by putting the center P from Happy in what I think is the center of the vase. And then I'm going to do the same thing with Halloween, and it helps to have the lines because it kind of gives me an idea of, you know, where it should be placed. I'm just pressing those out, and these are kind of felt. They feel like felt, so they're real pliable and easy to use here. Then I'm just going to go down the side too and press them down in place, and then this is how it's going to look. And we're going to add a candle to it, and I'll show you how that looks. And this is just a little LED. And in the end, you'll see what it looks like. And the easiest one is an easy treat jar. This is so simple. So I've got a jar of candy corn or harvest mix. I'm going to take one of these little jelly jars. I think it's, what is this, a pint maybe? 1 cup size. I'm going to have the ring in the top for that. I'm going to take one of these rub-ons from Dollar Tree. And then a scrap of fabric, and I have a variety over there. I'm going to clean our glass up really well with the alcohol and paper towels. This is going to help your little transfer to stay on there. And I've used these transfers from Dollar Tree for so many things, but this is the first time I've actually put it on, you know, what it is basically intended for, which is what they say is glass. It came off so easy. Be sure that you hold it still so you don't pull anything, you know, before it's down there, before the whole thing is down, or you will tear it. Okay, so once it's all rubbed down, this is how it's going to look. And it came out really nice. Okay, so I've spray painted that ring and let it dry. The seal doesn't have to be spray painted because it's going to be covered up by the fabric. I've put the candy down in the jar, and I've chosen this polka dot fabric that I used on something else. When you screw the lid on, it's going to look like this. Then you can trim it off. I did trim it twice to make sure I got it nice and short so you could see my little transfer, and this is how it looks. How cute. Any little kid would love that, or even your friends at work.